Welcome to The Call to Rise, the podcast for sacred rebels, visionaries, and conscious changemakers. Here we sit down with the people birthing the new earth, weaving ancient wisdom with modern strategy to build movements that heal, transform, and uplift our world. I'm Mackenzie Darling, your host, inviting you into honest conversations, practical tools, and hard-won wisdom to awaken your power and to inspire you to answer the call to rise and to meet this moment in history. Hi, everyone. I am so excited. This week we have Hannah Talbot that is joining the Call to Rise. I met you, Hannah, just a couple weeks ago, and it was sister from another mister. I mean, we just went deep and felt an instant kinship right out of the gate. And I was like, you got to get on my podcast and give all that love to my listeners. So welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. It's so good to be here, Mackenzie. This is fun. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. I want to read your bio just so other people are feeling the love in the house too and get a little bit of background from you. So Hannah Talbot is the visionary founder of Anam Cara Healing Center, a sanctuary for whole self thriving in downtown Spokane and beyond. With over 20 years of leadership and entrepreneurial experience, she now empowers teams, communities, and individuals through somatic energy practices, ritual, and mindfulness. Hannah is the creator of the Somatic Energy Practitioner certification, host of international retreats, and author of the upcoming book, Not at the Expense of You. Her mission is to help people reclaim balance, ignite creativity, and build lives of abundance and ease. I mean, sign me up for all of that. That sounds amazing, Hannah.
Heck yeah. Thank you.
This real world right now feels heavy and it feels like a lot. And so what you're doing, bringing people back into their bodies and right relationship and with mindfulness is so important. A lot of my work is I work with movement makers, tying that ancient wisdom with modern strategy. And so while I teach them how to do the strategy of building movements, we also have to be so aware of the mindfulness of our own beings and what we're birthing into the earth and energetically what we're bringing forward.
Yes, I was going to say that's why you and I vibed and clicked immediately, because while we lean deep into the energetics of everything, we see that from, yes, a spiritual lens, but really more so even a scientific lens of like vibration is real, energy is real, and we can measure this and we can study this and understand this and we can use this to our benefit. And so taking the kind of the woo and bringing it like boots on the ground, how do we take actionable steps? I think, again, that's why you and I just clicked, because, we both, I think, we're here for the evolution, but we're also very rooted in the reality of what's happening right now and what so many of us, including ourselves, my own body, your own body, are experiencing. So yes for being here, and fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love for you to get geeky and scientific and all the things and bring in more talk around that energy work for our listeners here.
Yeah. So you mentioned the Somatic Practitioner certification training. So we have a 10-month somatic training, a level 1 and a level 2. And level 1, we really use the chakras as a framework, but we're really bringing in Western psychology. We're bringing in, there's so much new science now around, what's happening with us on a cellular level, on a frequency level, what's happening with our nervous systems. I know, I don't know when the lineup is, but I know you had Bruce on your podcast.
Yeah, I just had him.
We can measure literally the biofield around the heart. And, Bruce is way more rooted in the science than even I am, because I'm probably going out on a limb on this one, but I feel like, gosh, we're measuring what the yogis had felt, right? This aura, right? It's like, that's the biofield. At least that's how I understand it. And it feels to me. But yeah, so that course is 10 months long, and we deep dive into somatic healing for ourselves. And when I think of somatic, how I define that word and how I define that category of healing is soma is the body, Latin for the body. And so this is healing that isn't just based on the mind and what we can think our way through, but how do we move the memories, the energy, the stored trauma in our bodies that we know lives there. And at this point, there's so many books out, and I feel like you're hearing that word somatic just about everywhere because we're really putting this together. Man, we've been studying the mind for a good long while, and I'm so glad that we did. And even though we still know just a skiff about that, now we're really starting to integrate what happens to your body, though. And so again, we use the chakra system as our framework, and then each module with that chakra supports what we're talking about. So we start with really breaking down, what is your nervous system? What is somatic healing? What is your energetic body? What does that mean? And then we go into the chakras. What is the root chakra? What's the base of you? What does safety and security look like? But also, what does that look like from an ancestral lens? Not just what are you bringing into the table? What are you bringing into this life experience, just yourself, but who are all of the people that you bring behind you? Living, the past, the people who are here, the people who will come. I mean, it's so multi-layered. We can bring in epigenetic studies of at least 3 generations of trauma gets passed down, at least, and again, with this, it's like, this is what we can measure right now. This is just continuing to bust wide open, and we're just learning more and more and more. So 10 months of breaking down everything from ancestral healing to how to use sound and vibrational healing to support you. We get into, how do we express ourselves with safety and security in our creativity, in our sexuality, in our play, in our pleasure. We talk a lot about expression of voice, truth. Tonight's class is about intuition. How do we access and experience our intuition? There's a great new podcast with Diary of a CEO with, I believe her name is Dr. Tara Swat. I think it's spelled Swata. I may be getting that wrong, but she just wrote a book called Signs, and it's about, that we don't have 6 senses even. We know we've got 5. Some of us believe in 6, but the truth is that we can scientifically prove more like 34 different access points to sensing the world around us. And the telepathy tapes, and I mean, there's just so much juiciness out there, right? That we can use to support what I think so many of us innately feel, this draw to ourselves. And I think this feeling of wanting to come home in a world that feels so fragmented. So that's really what that course is about. And, everything that I build at Anam Cara, everything has always started from a place of, what did I need? What do I still need? And then it grows from there. So the somatic level 2 is really for practitioners, people who want to facilitate the work, offer it to other people, whether that's one-on-one or through teaching and coaching. And so we get more into how to facilitate the work and practice on others. And that's another 10 months. So, and even those 2 courses feel like we're barely scratching the surface, but those are opportunities to dive really deep into the work.
It sounds like such a deep program. And I think, another reason why you and I, kindred sisters, was we have so much overlap in our work. Yes. I want to pause for a quick moment. If what we're talking about today resonates with you, you'll want to check out the Movement Maker Incubator, my 6-month intensive where I guide sacred rebels and changemakers to birth their own movements using ancient wisdom and modern strategy. You can join the waitlist and learn more about this sacred rite of passage for changemakers at globalmovementmaker.com/incubator. Because my Movement Maker incubator also brings in a lot of somatics, a lot of ritual, a lot of that ancestral healing piece, which I think is really under the nose for everyone. It's right there, but we aren't using the language of ancestral healing and lineage. And I think people are just now waking up to, because to your point, as we're now having words like epigenetics that are catching up with the felt sense of, I'm feeling this thing, but I don't know what it is. And so it's exciting to be able to see the ancient wisdom and the modern strategy being put into action. You just said so many things that I want to dive deep into. That was really great. I'm wondering from a chakra perspective, because it sounds like, the program is really built around the chakras. And for my listeners, the change makers, the conscious, leaders who are probably pretty familiar with the chakra system. But is there something like around the chakra system that you'd like to share with them right now as they're building their movements?
Yes. Well, for me, it sort of brings together, I feel like, similar perspectives on how energy is stored along the spine. And we use as a basis for our studies the book Eastern Body, Western Mind by Anadea Judith. Anadea is she's super knowledgeable on the chakra system and has been teaching on it since I think the 70s, if not longer. And she paired this book with Western psychology and the understanding of the mind and what, again, ancient yogis have been studying, because we use the Hindu system for the chakras that they've been studying for thousands of years. And to me, it just makes sense how they form. And so that, the first chakra being the root is all about our safety, security, survival. We have to have our basic needs met here. But that experience of that at the very beginning of your life, and even in the conception of you, the building of your body, and sets us up for our entire life's experience. When I read that book, I had already been studying the chakra system because I was teaching yoga. And so again, the chakra system makes a lot of sense to me because I guess it was a little bit like a gateway drug, right? Yoga was my introduction into this world from the corporate world where I was feeling really burnt out, really disconnected from myself, a lot of loss of identity around being a new mom and in marriage. And so found my way into yoga. And so when I started studying yoga and I first got introduced to the chakras, I was actually totally overwhelmed and then also convinced that I was dysfunctional in every single one. I must be, it's definitely.
I think a lot of people can probably relate.
Every time I teach the class now, I'm like, okay, everybody.
Yep.
Come on this journey with me. You're not broken, I promise. But that's the beauty in it, is that I think when the chakra system is an understanding that energy is always moving and that we're never, well, I shouldn't say, you're not going to reach, of course, that's the ultimate goal, right? But to reach this place of like perfect balance all the time, where you're never going to feel deficient or depleted or excessive anywhere. You're just aligned we hope for those moments, we hope for those seasons, but life, the human experience, is about that, being unbalanced, having things come at you, being challenged, being stretched. The beauty that we experience, part of that is the pain. And that's kind of how the chakras are, right? The duality. Each one holds an expression where it feels, balanced, whole, and then it has an expression of depletion. And so when I think of, again, life, they just make sense to me that we're constantly kind of trying to come back home to ourselves, back home to that, stasis, that sense of just being. And so each part of us constantly needs a little more and a little less, a little more and a little less, this feeding, this nurturing, this tending to. And as life continues to evolve and shift and change, those needs shift and change. It just made so much sense to me, especially when I paired it with that book, with the Western psychology that I had studied in college, decades ago now, but it was like this unlocking. And I felt like I could really start to uncover and understand the making of me, the putting together of myself through this perspective of both the energy body and the mental body. Yeah. So that's why the chakras make so much sense to me, or I have such a pull to them.
I'm wondering, Hannah, so when you're talking about the chakra system, I'm hearing the personal spiritual journey, but can you read the chakra system on a global or systemic? Like, where are we in the United States if you were looking at the chakra, and which ones are blocked and which ones are we doing okay on?
Girl, whenever I'm
Right?
teaching about the chakras, I always use the world as an example. Goodness gracious, absolutely. Every single one we could use an analogy for what the earth is going through right now, and of course, depending on where you are and what's happening, this might not be true to you, but I think as a large, kind of collective, and certainly from the perspective of, I suppose the American lens. I know you and I both, we're both happen to be on the West Coast here in California. I'm in Washington, and so,
Yep.
our root chakra is not stable at the moment. Often, right, we experience both a deficiency and an excess of the energy at the same time, which feels like, wait, that doesn't make sense. But there is really like this instability, this shaking up. We don't really know what's to come. And yet, what can kind of happen as a result of that is like excess behavior, right? And so, I guess I just think of the excess of like the illusion of security. What things can I pull? What things can I grab? What can I consume to give me the illusion that I'm safe, that I'm okay, that it's all going to be all right. A lot of us are creating that illusion in lots of different ways, right? Consuming social media, consuming, just totally desensitizing yourself from the whole thing. Whatever it is, but it's kind of this excess and deficiency happening at the same time. I mean, literally, we could spend the whole thing just going through each one. I mean, the second chakra, sexual trauma of the human race, is ancient, both for the masculine and the feminine, and we see it all over. That is not in healthy balance.
Well, all you have to look at is the Epstein, just right out in front of us, right?
Like, wow,
Big
it's
wow.
really, and it's been really coming to an intense place, because we again, it's like the beauty again of like the excess of the throat chakra. We get to say as and express in a way that we've never been able to, and the truth is out there, and we're trying to like shove it back in because it's so much fucking truth that people can barely handle it. They
Well,
can't handle it.
and
They
what
can't.
is truth? What is truth anymore, right?
And
With
then
like the
what is
rise
true,
of AI,
right?
and then what is true and what isn't true, and then truth is
Exactly.
based on perspective. The right completely really does believe that is the truth, and the left really does believe that is the truth. So
Yes.
truth is just such an interesting concept
Yes.
too. What is truth?
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I often use our president for an example as a blown out solar plexus.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm like, perfect example. Whatever you believe, whether you like him or you don't, that's a blown out ego, my friends. That's where it's like it just needs so much. To me, that's a super excessive solar plexus, right? And then the heart chakra, gosh, it's like, yeah, I think we again can see that there's so much care in the world. There's so many people out there who want to see good in the world and want to help, and are just and looking for connection and deep love and forgiveness. That's here. I believe it. But boy, are we also deficient in it, and finding our resources in places that aren't sustainable, aren't real, aren't authentic, aren't organic. So Yeah. And, and then our intuition, right? It's hard to trust yourself when the amount of noise that we have in this world. I'll be the first to admit it, because I'm on social media for work. And so you go on there to, or you go in your inbox to do something and then you see another thing and then it's just so much noise, noise, noise. And so it's hard to hear this signal or however you tune into your intuition. I don't want to say that it's just hearing, but like, how do we access our signal to our intuition, our higher knowing that, those abilities to see beyond just this, like what's right in front of you. We all have that access, but we're often giving it away. And then, boy, crown chakra is about connection to something bigger than yourself. And again, I think that so many of us are craving that, but because we're unsure about religion, that some of us, it's like we're really skewing far away from anything that has any kind of words like God or spirituality or anything like that, because we don't want the conformity of religion. But then I think you see the other side of it, right? Which is this ultra Christian movement that's happening in our country that's huge right now because there's a craving for connection. So yeah, the world is a wonderful example. One of my dear friends, she's a mentor and also, she was my doctor. Her name is Dr. Aubrey Wallace. She's a medical intuitive and she sees everything through the chakra system. And she actually channels your body map, kind of what's happening in your body through the chakras. And then she draws it on a paper as like, but the paper even represents the chakra system. So if everything's down, the lower half of the paper, that's more in the root energy. If everything's way up here, it all means something. Every color means something. I think that, and if you look at other cultures that have a sense that there's energy centers in the human body that line up against the spine, they're really similar. Like the Celtic, they believed that it was these like goblets and that when we're born, they're all facing up, so that we can like receive everything. But as life comes at us, our goblets turn, right? And so you might have one that's completely turned over and it can't be filled up. It's in that depletion. So yeah, it's interesting, fun stuff, but also, a wonderful way to view the world. And I, again, think of it as kind of a compass, like, well, what do I need? What does balance look like? Am I feeling deficient here, excessive, or am I feeling whole?
I want to take a moment to invite you into something special called Alchemy, a 3-month one-on-one coaching journey for people who feel called to step into deeper servant leadership. In Alchemy, we weave together the insights of the Enneagram with the sacred container of plant medicine ceremonies so you can understand your patterns, release what no longer serves you, and rise as the leader that you're meant to be. If you've been feeling the pull to step into your gifts and serve from a place of clarity and integrity, I'd love to walk with you. You can learn more and apply at globalmovementmaker.com/alchemy. I know that you do a lot of work around burnout, and you also have this whole corporate wellness program where you go in and help people with burnout and help people with stress. On your website, I love the quote, stress isn't just personal, it's systemic and it's costly. And so going in and working with organizations to try to get them more into mindfulness and stress reduction actually has a lot of hard-won numbers showing that is really beneficial and a great strategy for organizations.
Yeah.
Not just like a nice to have.
Exactly. When we have burnout, we have turnover and I guess even before that, we have people calling out, and then before that, or even in addition to it, we have people sitting at their desks. It's not, I don't think it's because people are lazy, right? It's literally like their nervous systems are fried. And so how can you access your creativity? How can you access your strategic problem solving when your nervous system is chronically fried? It's just not biologically possible. And so again, it's like, this isn't a luxury. This isn't an option anymore. It really needs to be built into every every company if we're going to
In
survive
country.
as a country. I
Right.
mean that, like, how are we going to take care of the people that are showing up for our businesses, for the things that we care about, for each other? How do we create sustainability if we're not caring for the people? Yeah. So yeah, again, I don't think it's at this point a luxury, but it's critical.
Yeah, I completely agree. What would you say to the movement makers out there who, first of all, building a movement, I mean, that just takes so much energy and so much heart. And, myself, I've suffered from chronic fatigue syndrome,
Mhm.
burnout, because I have this deep calling, and it's really hard for me to balance my humanity and my higher purpose. And then on top of that, so two questions: what would you say to them to be able to balance that? And then the second is, when they're building their teams, how can they really have that embedded within the work culture to establish that baseline of like self-care while you're caring for the world?
Well, I think you mentioned that I'm writing the book not at the expense of you.
Yeah, great title.
And
I love that.
yes, and I just gave a talk this weekend to at a women's retreat where we had this conversation, a lot of entrepreneurs, and I'm an entrepreneur myself, and wanting to do really big things and wanting to scale my business and constantly having new ideas and innovating, and it requires a lot. And I believe that not at the expense of you becomes this, just like we were talking about with the chakras, right? Can you reach perfect equilibrium and stay there? Sure. Yes, you can. But are you going to be doing that as an innovator and a change maker? Most likely not, right? You're going to be getting pushed and stretched, and your nervous system is going to be taxed. And so let me just start with that. That's not all bad. I'm not saying let's stop that. But what I am saying is, again, we can't like drive that to the point of deficiency where we're completely depleted. So not at the expense of you becomes this scale, right? And we're thinking again about the chakras, or even like that Celtic version of the energy system, right? Like, where is my cup? How is it tilted so that I can be pouring into it? Because the idea is that it's pouring, it's like this, and you're just overflowing. Then we have enough for everybody, right? So there is some slowing down in order to speed up. And so I think that bringing anyone onto your team, you have to first lead with, I'm going to work, I'm going to drive, I'm going to push this baby. I mean, today's going to be a 14-hour day for me that I'll be at my space. But I love this. I love what I'm doing. And so it doesn't feel like it's at the expense of me, because I'm lit up. This is fun. This is exciting. But can I do 14-hour days every single day?
Right.
No. And I can't expect that of myself. And I certainly can't expect that of anybody who works on my team.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, it's like we need to have a place of measuring what feels like wholeness to us. Do we even understand? Can we even access our wholeness? Do we even have a sense of what that feels like? And then can we try our best to find balance without expensing ourselves out to the point of debt, right? Burnout. And so you're going to have to lead with your team by checking in with them. Like just today, I had a meeting. Ideally, I would like us to meet all in person today, because it was something specific where we really needed to like kind of feel into it. And I didn't want it to be a quick, just that transactional feel. And so, but I hadn't fully expressed that to my team. And so instead I checked in, like, are you able to meet me in this energetic space today? Are you able to bring what I'm asking you to bring, right? Emotionally, energetically. And if not, that's okay. We can meet virtually and I can table that for later, right? But like, I don't just expect everyone to be exactly where I'm at. I don't expect us to all be at 100% of the time. And I'm constantly checking in with myself and my team saying, are you feeling like you've got enough where you can continue to give? Or have we slipped into the point of depletion and now we're literally in a deficit and you're just giving from nothing? Because I don't want to create from that space. I don't want, us change makers, us helpers. I heard this phrase today called the human giver syndrome. Emily Nagoski writes about it in the book Burnout. And that we will just give and give and give until there is not just nothing. We're talking beyond nothing, right? And when you care so much that you're trying to innovate, you're trying to create a business, you're trying to create change in the world, you will give to that point, right? And so we have to have checkpoints. We have to have these moments where we check in with ourselves and go, how balanced is this right now? Is this at the expense of myself? Because if it is, what's what change are we really making, right? What's the legacy that we're leaving? So yeah, clearly I get excited about this, Mackenzie.
No, I'm loving it. I'm like drinking up every last drop of what you're saying. And I feel that so, so deeply. I love the check-in of yourself and really honoring the vessel of, okay, I could go a million miles per hour, but I actually have to tune into my own vessel and see where I am at energetically. And then I just absolutely loved how you were talking about checking in with your team, because that is such a small thing, but it's actually hugely revolutionary and something that we're not trained or used to doing, especially in Western go, go, go culture. It's like this machinery of modernity that is killing us. I worked for a fully female staff a couple years ago, and it was interesting to be in a fully female energetic space where there was a lot more of that. It was like, hey, how are you arriving today? Hey, let's take a couple deep breaths before we start this meeting.
I'm laughing just because this is literally the meeting that I just had.
Well, of course, right? And so, and I would love female, male, these are just energies. And so I would love to, and the balance of both of those are so important, And so I think what you're just talking about is so important. And I also think we all come with different energy levels and also who we are. So I'm an Enneagram facilitator. And, we've got these 9 different archetypes, and different people get energized by different things. They're also coming into movement through different lenses. Like the Enneagram 2 is coming from it, like from pure love. Enneagram 1 is coming from goodness. Like we all have our different lenses of why something's important to us. And then we also have different things of what makes us energized and what doesn't. And also, some of us are introverts, some of us are extroverts, and that's just not talked about enough either in workplaces.
I also, one of my team members, this interestingly enough, like just knowing how it's worth having some conversation with your team. Like, how do you understand your own energy? Because if you're hiring people who have no concept of how to regulate themselves, it's really good information to have. I'm not saying like don't hire them, right? I'm just saying it's really good information to have of like, where are we all at? Like it's gonna be difficult, it's challenging when we don't kind of have a common language. I think that's part of what my work is and your work is, to come in with teams and help them create a common language around how do we check in? How should we be starting meetings?
Exactly.
How do I ask an employee or a team member, what's your gas tank at today? Without necessarily getting into a personal counseling session, right? Because I understand that. I'm also somebody who I want to utilize all 14 hours of my day and make them efficient and get things done and have them be productive and have a return on investment and all of the same things. But yeah, being able to check in with each other and be okay with adjusting our expectations. I think as leaders, we come in with a vision and an expectation. And when we're too rigidly attached to that, it makes leadership really challenging, because just like you said, not everybody is at the same level. We don't all have the same needs. Just today, I had a team member who was doodling during the meeting that we're having. Now, it's only three of us, and she's drawing. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if I didn't know her and know that that's her way of concentrating and channeling her intuition and her creativity,
Mm-hmm.
I would be like, she's ignoring me. And then the energy would totally shift. My voice would shift. What was coming out of my mouth would shift. How I was viewing everything and hearing everything that came out of her mouth would shift. So it's like, but we have this sense and awareness of like, I know that this is what she needs energetically for her to focus and to listen. I know that she needed to meet virtually in order to show up and be here today. Yeah, I think we're shifting that paradigm, right? Of going, we should all be robots. We should all adhere to this, 50-hour, 60-hour a week. 40 hours is like, I think, changemakers are working all
Oh
the
yeah.
hours.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
But does it have to be so robotic? Does it have to be so rigid? Or can we be human in this experience?
Yeah, absolutely. And within my Movement Maker Incubator course, the first four modules, we really dive very deep into that. And by the end, they actually have a manual of me. And we
Hmm.
have them then share that. That's kind of the doc of like, okay, when anyone new comes onto your team and it says like, this is what my leadership style is. This is what gets
Yes.
me energized.
Yep.
This is a sign that I might need help or need support. And these are some of my patternings that I'm working on. So we're all
Yeah.
really humanizing one another. I think
Yes.
that's something that is really difficult about being a movement maker and a change maker is that you feel like you're on top and there's no room for error. Like the expectations are so high. And so humanizing one another within the workforce is
Yes.
just so important.
One of my favorite conversations to have with teams is not what stresses you out, but how do you experience stress? Because then we sit in that room all together, and just like you said, we humanize each other's experience and we realize how similar we are. And even if I don't, experience stress, tension in my neck, for me, it's my lower back or my stomach. When I know that Mackenzie does, I'm going to have more empathy. And I'm also going to be watching out for that now on a daily basis. I'll have a sense of, when Mackenzie's reaching her limit, maybe even before Mackenzie does, and I can offer some kind of support. But that humanization of that, we all have stress and we all feel it in our bodies. It just levels the playing ground. And then again, like you said, by humanizing each other, it's so much easier to lift each other up and to support each other and to innovate and create together. That's what this is all about, right? Is to me, I say my work is creating team coherence. So back to Bruce's work around heart coherence in the body, we're trying to create team coherence so that we all are running on a similar rhythm and wavelength instead of, even if I have different needs, I don't come into the office and all of a sudden turn the rhythm and the energy into like this. When
Mm-hmm.
you see the lines on the EKG where it's like it's going all over the map, we're looking for that coherence, that smoothness. And so when we are in coherence with each other as a team, we create that harmony throughout, which then shows in the work that we're trying to produce, which is the whole point of being there, and that's that's when the magic happens, right? The lightning bolts go off is when we're like, synergy is there. Yeah.
Yeah, synergy is such a key word. Absolutely. And when you are in that coherence, you are able to be in that synergy. And you're right. I mean, magic happens. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about is very similar to the work that I do again with the Enneagram, because it's so interesting. Like looking at the Enneagram, you can see individual team members and what their numbers are. But then when
Hmm.
you're looking at it from a higher level, as
Hmm.
like organization or the whole
Hmm.
movement, and that brings its own energy based upon, are you Enneagram sevens heavy? Do you have a lot of twos? Like when
Right.
you actually look at different departments, a lot of the times twos will be more in the supporting roles, or fives might be more in the tech roles. And it's just
Yep.
it's interesting to be able to see the synergies within individual relationships, then department wise, and then movement wise.
Exactly. Yes. It doesn't, like this is all about empowering yourself, empowering first yourself, right? Tending to you, starting to understand your own energetic self, your own ways of movement in the world and how you shift and change. And then having a lens for other people and then bringing that into our teams and our communities. That's when we're going to see these shifts and changes that I think so many of us, and I know in your community, so many people are craving and desiring.
Yeah. Amen to that. May it be so.
Heck
May it be
yes.
so. Absolutely.
Yeah.
As we're winding down, Hannah, I want everyone to know how to get involved with you and give all of your handles and your URLs.
Absolutely. So you can find us at Anam Cara. So Anam Cara means soul friend in Gaelic, and it's spelled A as in apple, N-A-M as in Mary. Anam Cara Healing Center. And so find us online. You can check out all of our trainings, the different retreats that we do. We're just getting ready to go to Mallorca, Spain. The next one will be in Bali. Those are for the ones that we host, publicly are for individuals, but we do team retreats as well. So you can find out all about our corporate offerings. And then you can also find out about our somatic training, which we offer, of course, in person at our healing center in Spokane, Washington. But everything that we offer, we also do virtually. And so the somatic training happens virtually, as well as all of our corporate offerings. We do them virtually and in person. And then we have our own app with hundreds of classes and meditation series on there, mindfulness series. So that's a great resource as well. And then if you want more of the fun, playful, come onto Instagram, again, Anam Cara Healing Center. It's just all the things, you'll find us. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was a delight.
Yay! Yeah, it was such a delight. Thank you so much. And I'm so grateful that you just shared what the meaning of Anam Cara is, because I immediately felt soul friend with you. And that's actually one of my favorite sayings ever, really near and dear to my heart. So wonderful work that you're doing. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, and look forward to continuing this path with you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mackenzie.
Thanks. Thank you for listening to The Call to Rise. If today's conversation stirred something in you, subscribe and share it with a fellow movement maker. And join our community at globalmovementmaker.com. Till next time, keep leading with courage, keep weaving ancient wisdom with modern strategy, and always remember to answer the call.